then I'm going to pin your video because you're the one they're here to see. And I'm going to introduce you. I'm so glad you're here, Courtney. This is really exciting. So, you guys, if you were able to be at Summit or watch the replay of Summit, one of my favorite parts of the whole thing was when Courtney Nelson, who is VP of Strategy, is that right?
Correct.
Yes. And then you're president of, and I forget this one.
General manager.
General manager, okay. And Aaron Bradley's brother happens to be Aaron Bradley's brother.
More commonly referred to as.
Yeah. But corporate got up and did a panel, which was like my favorite part about Summit because they each talked about their job and their role and what they'd been up to for the past year. And it just was so clear that like we have a dream team, you know, in our corporate team. And so it was I think I cried the most during all of your speeches. But Courtney, when you talked about Australia, and some other things you talked about as well. But when you talked about Australia, I just got super pumped up and I wanted everybody to get some of that from you. And I also thought maybe we could expand on a little bit of that. So I reached out to Courtney and asked if he could share a little bit of his experience and insight with Australia because he actually lived there for a time. So that's why he's here. And we're so grateful that you're here. I know it's nighttime and busy, you know, you're busy, but we appreciate having you on the call.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I love to see a big group here. And I love to see there's multitasking going on in these what I call the Brady Bunch squares.
Yes.
That's my favorite part. I don't lock the door when I get on these calls just because I hope, you know, my daughter will probably come in at some point and I want her to see, like, I think it's important for my kids and you all determine what's important for your kids, but I love to see when people's kids see what they do for a living and how they interact with other adults and humans. And so anyway, it's so awesome to see so many other people late at night making time to build their businesses and build themselves and whatever other reasons that brings them on this call tonight, right?
Yes, it's always inspiring.
Yeah. So Katie, I guess with that, like, do you want me to just start talking about Australia or?
Well, okay, why don't you first talk about when you were there and a little bit of your experience in Australia and with the people and a little bit of that. That would be a great place to start.
Perfect. So it's been a minute since I was there, right? But that doesn't discredit my love for them or how much how great of a country it is. But I was there. It was about 20 years ago, and I spent 2 years there. I spent time in. You all, I'm sure, will get familiar with the geography of Australia as you do work there, but it's a large, vast country, about the same size as the United States, geographically, but a fraction of our population, right? I think it's a little under 30 million people in total. So think United States size. Maybe even Canada size too, for that matter, right? But United States size, but Canada's population base probably a little bit, you know, it's a little bit smaller than Canada. Opposite side of the hemisphere, opposite weather patterns as Canada. Very, very warm climate, as we all know. And everything kind of functions around like 5 cities. I lived in a couple. I lived in Melbourne, which is the capital city of the state of Victoria. And then I also lived on the island of Tasmania for a period of time, which was quite the experience. Absolutely loved it down there. But anyway, so it was that long ago. It kind of 5 major metro areas. And something like 80% of the population lives within 25 miles of the coast there, or some crazy statistic like that, right? It's once you get inland, I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's like godforsaken country. Like you can't survive there. There's a reason people don't live there. They can't. You know, there's no water, there's no foliage, there's no vegetation, anything. It's just the Aboriginals figured it out, but no one else really has sense.
So we're going to need a lot more swimsuits when we go.
We're going to need a lot more swimsuits. That's a good point. We are. And the good news, we'll be able to sell a lot more swimsuits year round, right?
That's right. Yes.
We can take out some of the seasonality, but taking a step back, to that point, that's part of the great part of this thesis of Australia, right? A lot of people will ask why Australia next? It's so far away. It's its own island. I don't know if y'all have played the game of Risk, but it's almost like you're strategically trying to control where you go to capture more control over the game board, right? And in the end, that's kind of the way we view Australia in the game of Risk. That's actually our most natural next step. That is a gateway that has so many synergies with America. When I was in Australia, they had a joke. It was a game that they called Spot the Aussie. And is what that meant basically was it's a melting pot. And you can't find a pure-blooded Australian hardly. At the time, at least, it was the largest population of Greeks outside of Greece. And I believe it was Scotland, I believe was the same. It was also the largest population of Scottish people outside of Scotland. Tons and tons of a very strong Japanese population. Very strong. All the Asian countries have a very strong presence there. Cambodia, Philippines, Southeast Asia, Asia proper, everything. Major European influence, as we can all imagine. And that's a strength of that country, right? It creates a lot of culture, and in some ways it can isolate community, but I was surprised by how it doesn't. I remember I was there during 9/11, by the way, like 9/11,
Wow.
9/11, the actual event.
Wow.
And I remember waking up that morning and the series of events that unfolded. And I was living in a predominant Muslim community at the time. And I remember like my mom checking on me, like, you good? I'm like, Mom, these are the greatest people. Like, nothing to worry about. This is different. Just trust me, this is different. And you go out the next day, and it was the Australians would yell at me and say, go back to America. You're the root of problems. And it was just, for them, they felt like they were going to get pulled into a war. And I don't want to get too into this, but the rest of the community would come and put their arms around us and hug us and say, we're so sorry for what's happened to your people. And it was incredible to see how warm and hospitable they were during a really, really tough time. But that's who Australians are, right? They're not Southern hospitality. It's a different kind of hospitality you can't describe, but there are people who looks out. They're very loyal people that look after each other. And they're used to doing that because they were basically banished by England. And then they had to create their own community of all these other countries that have come and landed on this island, right? And they take a lot of pride in that. They take a ton of pride in that.
This is
So
so helpful. I feel like we're in a class and learning about this, and I think that's what we need to be doing. That is so helpful. I didn't know a lot of that.
The culture is so important down there, right? When I moved down there, I spent about 6 months studying the culture.
Okay.
Because again, it's something that's important to them. It's something that they value, as we do ours and our heritage. And so, you know, for those of you that have desires and ambitions to broaden your businesses down there, I would encourage you to spend some time on that, right? Understand the culture, understand the perspectives. And it's just some of those little details of understanding how diverse the population base is and what they value. They value activity and they value balance of work and life. Like they really do. I used to comment, I told Katie this a little bit when we talked prior to the call, that I almost got to a point where I resented Americans a little bit during my time there, because I'm an inherently competitive person. Most of the time, I think I can keep that in bounds, and every now and again, I take my competitive side maybe takes me a little too far. And I got there and I realized these are great people. Like to them, it's not just about like climbing to the top of the ladder or winning, but they truly can find joy in their daily services, in their daily life, in their daily activity. And you know, the thing I would think about is I'd meet people from every walk of life there, and whether it was someone that was working in the top story of an office building, whether it was a construction worker, or I used public transportation when I was there a lot. So whether it was someone that was selling tickets at for public transportation, they just enjoyed their jobs. They wanted to joke, they wanted to laugh, and it was very obvious, and it came out in the way that they approached their jobs. I always valued that.
I'm so excited to work with them and have more of that in my life, just on a human level. That sounds really lovely.
It is. It's great. And you hear it all the time, right? You hear the stereotype of, oh, Australians are so laid back. Like if you've ever been to Southern California and you think of Southern Californians laid back, like you haven't met an Australian yet, right? Like it's a different level no worries, mate. Like that's the number one saying over there, and they mean it. Like I can't. And the other thing they say constantly is can't be bothered. And it's like,
Mm,
that's just kind of how they feel about certain things. Like,
wow.
someone brings up a political topic, like, I can't be bothered, mate. Like they don't want to get into it. They just want to laugh and joke and have fun. And those are some of their endearing attributes of the culture and the community out there. But again, the great thing is that there's so many different walks of life that it's not permeated by only one perspective. Generally, speaking, that's the most prevalent perspective, but there's lots of others. Anyway, I'm just kind of talking, rambling about
that's
the culture,
so helpful. I mean, I have a whole page of notes. One thing that you and I talked about, Courtney, were the 5 main. Didn't we do this, or was this with somebody different? We talked about the 5 main cities that, like, if people are strategically messaging people in different areas. So we've got Melbourne, Brisbane, which is where the warehouse will be, Perth, and then what are the other 2?
Sydney.
Oh, duh. Yeah.
Yep. And Adelaide.
Adelaide. Okay.
Yep. So Perth is like an island within an island, right? I mean, it's the far western edge of the country. So literally, proximity wise, it would be like there's almost zero. Imagine there's almost zero population west of Texas. And then clear over where San Francisco or Los Angeles is, there's all of a sudden another metropolis. But like it's out there. They're quite a ways apart.
I think I read that Perth is like really quirky. Is that yeah? Have you been there?
I haven't been there, but I met several people from Perth, and there's a stigma, right? Like they all have their own little stigma similar to here.
That's where I want to go. I want to go to Perth.
You do want to go to Perth. You also want to go to Brisbane, and like there's a lot of them, right? But like I would almost say like culturally, Melbourne kind of aligns with San Francisco.
Okay.
I think Sydney kind of aligns with Los Angeles. You go up to Queensland and it kind of aligns with like Orange County sort of thing, right? Brisbane is more Orange County. Adelaide might, like, honestly, if I had to identify, I'd almost like Adelaide might be the Midwest of Australia, right? Like a little more like they're like, if there's anyone on this call from LA or New York or San Francisco, I've lived in those cities, in all of them. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I embrace and love those cities and the people there. But there's a different level of like I'll just say a point, but I thought LA, the general perspective of LA is it was pretentious for me, right? Like I felt like people wanted to get to know me, more interested in like what I could do for them and why I might be important rather than who I am as an individual. That can permeate a little bit in certain, so there's none of that in Adelaide. Adelaide is very down home, very authentic.
Like our team.
Like your team. Exactly.
Okay, and that's helpful.
So I think I will say that, and then Perth is probably like, I don't know, Perth is maybe like the South, right? However you view the South here, that's kind of the way I would almost presume Perth would translate.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm just trying to help you understand, like, even there, right? It's very different subcultures exist within the country, and they have their own. Each capital territory takes on its own personality, and it's
because it's a whole country. It's not just that's very helpful. So,
and you've all seen the same with Canada, right? Eastern Canada from Western Canada are completely different in nature.
Yeah. So if so talking to these reps, is there anything else you feel like they should know, we should know when it comes to Australia, like before the launch or after the launch or just in general?
There's a couple things I think that are good, just maybe to get y'all excited, a little more excited, or first of all, this is going to happen and it's going to be super exciting. But I almost liken it to a sports game, and I apologize if that's not the way you speak, but maybe you can relate with it somehow. There's no point in thinking about you always have to be thinking about the fourth quarter, but you can't think too much about the fourth quarter when you're in the first and second quarter, right? And I guess this is what I mean by that is this is going to happen and it's going to be exciting. And the fourth quarter of a basketball game is going to happen and it's going to be exciting. but there's a couple quarters to play in the meantime. And there's still so much to be done here in the United States. And there's still so much to be done in Canada. That we need to make sure that, and we need to do it as a team as well, that we need to continue to focus and make sure that we're growing and every aspect of the business here domestically, while also making sure that we as a corporate team are creating the opportunities and growing, paving the way in Australia for y'all. But, I'd encourage you all to make sure to remember that same perspective. There's going to be a lot of opportunity over there, but the best way to prepare for that opportunity is staying tuned right here in our own turf. But to go back to what you're asking, Katie, there's just so many reasons to be excited. The GDP per capita there is, we all know what we've done in Canada, and we grew like a rocket, a rocket ship. And we all know what happened here in the States, and just grew so incredibly fast. Well, they have all the same macro and microeconomic factors working in their favor. Australia they have a higher GDP per capita than Canada. They're a more active community than Canada. And this isn't just my anecdote. It is anecdote I've had from living there and visiting Canada, but I support my anecdote with stats and data. And if you go look it up at GDP per capita, Australia ranks ahead of Canada almost always. And in some measures, they even rank ahead of the United States, right? Like it's a wealthy country. That alone isn't enough to just say, okay, that's super great. Do their styles align with ours, right? We've spent the time, we've made sure we understand that, and their styles do align with ours. Our product will translate very, very well there. And even where we need to make different tweaks and tunes, eventually we'll be ready to adjust to any differences. But it's a universal product that we have that we'll take down there with us. And it's super active. No matter how you look at health stats, when you look it up online, whether you measure health in terms of activity and how much time people spend outside, or Canada is great and fantastic. America is pretty good as well. We're a healthier country than we give ourselves credit for sometimes, by the way. But Australia always ranks super high, like top 10, sometimes top 7, top 5, healthiest, most active communities in the world. And it's one of those cases where you go to a park on a Sunday and good luck, right? Like you better get there by 9, 10 a.m. or else you're not finding a spot for your pickup rugby game or your pickup Australian rules football. And you just see it, you feel it, it permeates. They love their sport. This is an interesting little anecdote that I'll share. I shared with Katie. We think we love sport in America, and the reality is we can't even come close to comparing to Australia and their passion for it. Think about NFL, which is the most comparable sport to rugby, and Australian rules football, which are two slightly different sports. In America, like if you have a population base of 5 million people in your city, you probably support one NFL team, right? And you probably fill the seats. You probably fill the stadium for that NFL team. In Australia, a city of 5 million people would have like 8 to 10 NFL teams. And you don't have an NFL team that is assigned to a city. It's like assigned to the suburbs.
That's wild.
So for those that I'll use Utah just as such an easy example because it's where I live, but you wouldn't have the Utah Jazz. And I know I'm crossing sports now, but you wouldn't have the Utah Jazz. You would have like the Draper Dragons and the Salt Lake Scorpions. And like within this one little city,
Wow.
you have and they're all putting 80 to 100,000 people in the seats each week.
Wow.
I mean, so they just love sport. They love activity. They're laid back. They're easygoing. They're diverse. It's a wealthy nation. Again, all the macroeconomic factors favor us very, very well.
So, Cortney, I want to give everybody a chance to ask questions, but I just wanted to say one more thing and ask if you could speak to this. I put in our newsletter today, I don't know if anybody reads it, but I put a little blurb about let's make sure that we don't treat the opening of Australia like, the day after Thanksgiving at Walmart where everybody tramples each other to, get $5 off an item. Like I want to make sure that we keep integrity and remember that there are 30 million people. So is there anything, can you speak to that?
You nailed it, right? You said that so well. That's very important. It's um, I don't know how to add to that, Katie. You said it so
Okay.
well. You can't. There's so much to preserve here, right? Look, here's the one other thing I'll add to it, I guess. Approach it the same way that this entire business has been built from the start, which is we are a product-led and culture-based business, and we have to continue to lead that way, right? I went on a camping trip, we'll call it, for the sake of this call, because I don't know who would be offended if I called it anything other than a camping trip a couple weeks ago. But I went on a camping trip, and a camping trip where you carry a gun. And while I was there, I was getting ready to go, and I was trying to buy some new optics, some new binoculars to make sure I could see all the beautiful trees as well as possible, right? And they had two items that everyone kind of debates in the world of optics. And one is Vortex and the other one is Swarovski. And to what similar to what Katie's saying is, when you talk about Vortex, it's a great product. But it's interesting when you talk to me about all they talk about is warranty, 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 warranty. And they're like, look, they're foolproof, they're dumb proof. If you break them, even if you're just tripping and falling, they'll always fix them and send you back a new pair, or send you back a new pair. And that's awesome. It's a great thing to have in place. When you talk Swarovski, all they talk is quality, 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 quality. And it's also great, but there's no warranty. So you're spending almost twice as much money, but you're not getting a warranty with it. And the point is that those companies, I thought about this after, like they both have very distinct identities. And to use Katie's word of integrity, they have integrity around their product and what it is. And for us, what is our integrity? Our integrity is our product, and it's our pillars, which is our culture, right? And as long as we lead with that in everything we do, we will continue to be able to build this business in the exact same way it's been built over the prior 4 years, and we will find the same success through all of your teams that have been realized. In whether it's United States or Canada, we will be able to do those same things there. So you said it best. It's a product-led, culture-based business, and it's been a proven plan so far, and it'll continue to work.
Okay. Well, thank you. Okay, we've got a couple questions. They're in the chat, but shipping is very limited right now to Oz due to their COVID restrictions. It's super pricey. Do we have any indicator of when that may open up a bit more?
We not well enough, to be honest. And it's all these types of details that, I mean, even if we wanted to be there right now, we just can't, right? Even if we felt like we knew the answers to stuff like this right now, we're just not, the government isn't ready for us to open up there yet. But until, in short, until there's a fully stable economic environment there, stable meaning predictable and understandable, it's going to take a minute, right? But before we get there, we will make sure we understand that. And by the way, their GDP, the GDP in Australia is still doing well. People are still buying products, similar to the United States. Even when people were locked down, it almost created more spending. So all that stuff's still intact. But no, we'll get more. We will continue to develop and get more confidence around that as that country opens up and welcomes new businesses.
Okay, thank you. Another question about COVID and lockdowns and how that will impact things. I think it's more just kind of like we're just waiting, right? Waiting to kind of see when things sort of open up.
So as far as logistics, right? It's Jeremiah and I spend a lot of time on the legal aspects of making sure we're ready. We've got great attorneys to make sure that we will be ready. I would say we're probably at the 5-yard line on that topic, right?
Wow.
We can punch the ball across the end zone almost at any time. But so we're making great progress as far as like the logistics, going to the points of some of the shipping and other. We've got a 3PL is what they call them, third-party logistics providers selected. We do have to do it that way. In Canada and domestically, we have always operated our own warehouses. We are so eager to get down there that we've taken the initiative, I guess we'll call it, to engage a third-party logistics provider. Because we just know if we waited till we could actually physically get down there and physically set up shop and create a warehouse, and it would delay it too long for the field, and we don't want to delay that. So we spent a ton of time with numerous 3PLs. We found one that we know we can trust, and has come co-signed by several other people in the e-commerce industry that have taken a large domestically based business and expanded it down into Australia. So we've gotten good comfort there. All those logistical items, they're getting in place quickly. And I was on the phone with banks today, getting the banks and the merchant processes all set up. Telling you maybe more than you know, but reviewed our final, what I believe is the final merchant agreement that we've been negotiating to make sure that we have good, solid merchant services down there. Anyway, so all that's plugging along, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that we're there ready to be tactical and functional, so that as soon as we feel like there's enough runway and confidence in the government and opening up and et cetera, that we'll be ready to run.
Wow. Well, I know I speak for everybody when I say I just feel so proud to be aligned with you guys, and like this, I don't know, it's just such a gift. This company is such a gift, and I love being part of this new growth. I hope all of you feel that way too. Just feeling like I don't know, we're all kind of doing this together. That is a really unique experience in a company, and to be on the ground floor as we move into that new territory is it's just so thrilling. So we're just so proud of you and inspired and excited.
Well, thank you. And look, we feel the same way. You mentioned earlier that you called the team, the corporate team, I can't remember the phrase.
The dream team.
The dream team. Thank you. And look, I think they're a dream team. I love these guys. And gals. They are so awesome. But we feel the same way about the rep field, and it's the people that make this business so special. Katie, can I answer? There's one more question here. It looks like Lindy posted it about. I think it's a great comment, and it's something that I just wanted to touch on, and we are very cognizant of. You follow the news, and Australia's in a tougher place than what a lot of us probably experience day to day still, right? You can read in the news about what the government restrictions still are there, and what challenges some of the people are facing. Can't speak for all of them, but you hear and read some of the stories about how hard it is on some of the people. We have to be cognizant of that, right? And you all are you all have very good social IQs. Everyone I've ever talked to is Zaya. I've talked about, yes, social IQ is there. You get it. You know how to read people. You know how to read tea leaves, and just, be cognizant of it, be aware of it. Don't, sometimes, by the way, this creates opportunity and hope for these people that might be only able to leave their house for 1 hour a day. And even then they can't go more than 5 blocks from their front door. Like, that's where I talk about us being product led and culture based. Again, be smart, be cognizant of how you approach it, but our culture can add so much value to a lot of these individuals. If we approach it the right way and lead with it.
Yeah, good point. Okay.
Anyway. Well, thank you all. I know I talk a lot, but I love this so much. I can't help but from the business to the country of Australia and everything in between, the reps, the field. I love it all so much. So thank you for letting me share some thoughts and perspectives with you.
Thank you. It was such a great call. We appreciate your time.
Okay. All the best. Hopefully see some of you this weekend.
Okay. Yep. See you soon. Bye, guys.